Plastic and Stereo, collaboration with Soldier Blue and Catherine Wyatt. It was the early morning, sleep-thick eyes heard no sound, the crisp cavalry bugles had yet to sound. The last belt of bourbon yet to be consumed for the supporter would give military cadence and annihilation orders. Blue-coat soldiers lined with fixed bayonets, the hill steep enough for momentum. The men gone to town for trading, the apatsi, women and children, waiting for the goods that would last them long enough to make life more than survival in the high deserts of the Sierra Madres. The soldiers were there to take scalps and collect bounty, 25 gold for women, 15 for children. Annihilation, the invisible lines didn't matter, nobody gave them any accords of sanctity. Never mind life. Voyatle, yet to be called by another name, yet to be named by the day's media as bloodthirsty savage, returned to find 3 times his wife and children murdered and scalped, and he was the savage. And the microphone sweats in my hand, and someone in the front seat wants to know what I think.
Can you tell me about the White Buffalo legend? Dharmasala, where the orphans are escaping, Chinese soldiers, frostbite, creating amputees out of 15-year-olds, escaping over mountain peaks from oppressions, limbs lost, women raped by electric cattle prods, young men, 24 and under, having been tortured, imprisoned, soaked in filthy water on frozen floors for the sake of preserving their traditions, culture, and language. And as the piece comes to an end, I get a message.
Do you know anything about Kundalini and Tantra? The Northern Cheyenne arise to see themselves surrounded on 3 sides by chemical water, chemical plants, the smoke choking the air, the wastewater flowing into the river, yea, the fishes floating dead, no clean water except what you can buy, and the waft of wind smelling of sulfur, yea, hell with the fires put out. And the next one back in the casual audience wants to know,
Can you tell me about the peace pipe?
yea, ceremony, 10,000 years, a sacred mountain tradition.
The creation of Devanagari, the slow science of breathing and the workings of sound and light, passed down from teacher to student through oral tradition. Cave yogis in sacred Himalayan territory. Start with just the breath. Just learn how to breathe. When the student comes to me asking,
Yeah, how do I enhance my aura?
and again I say with a sigh, Tantra is not for Americans.
I reach back into my bag of knowing and seek to bring peace to those who are the pitiful ones that went through the agonies of a mental health facility chained next to a hot water pipe with the fears writhing deep that maybe the next epileptic attack will see that arm burned deeper than the marrow 3rd degrees of the last time. And so I tear lengths from my spirit and sing the songs of smoke prayer, healing and lament, casting forth my voice in prayer to give back even a small part of what was the ultimate sacrifice of my pitiful ones so that I, a future generation, might have life. And the man to the left of the house lights wants to know,
What sexual practices can we learn in the Sweat Lodge?
as the description of the sulfur-stenched streets of rural India.
And those who live in boxes by the streets, the women feeding families of 8 on flour they beat on the stones with gnarled hands, lined faces, from living on less than $2 American a year, year after year, yet they still find a way to gather wood for the death of a loved one, even though the body may lay roadside for weeks till the extra rupees can be collected, all for the sake of having their loved one properly cremated inside the walls of Calcutta, and swept with flowers and candlelight out upon the sacred waters of Maganga. Back in the States, with dull, wide eyes, the next time I go to Kirtan, Joe Smith is calling himself Krishna Das, wearing a dhoti, saying it was an accident he was born in America, as he drives away from the ritual in his BMW. Yea, I cry over the native woman dying on the highway of tears.
I sense the frustration of as my brothers and sisters in Oka, Canada, try to keep the golf course from being built on their funerary grounds by burial mounds. I scrape myself clean of the prejudice that could easily be mine and do my best to understand more than just my side of the arguments we as Native people have before the government of the USA. And the girl in the back wants to know,
Hey, where can my boyfriend and I get some peyote? We'd like to have some Indian visions.
28 years of studying. First, you follow the breath.
Next, you work with the sound, sitting at the teacher's feet, researching how the caste system casts out their own, how the lepers cannot get to the free penicillin the Holy One set up for them in hospitals, as they cannot get a few rupees to get there, watching widows avoiding a fiery death for outliving their husbands, women walking down one side of Mother India's sidewalks, and the men walk together, the two never being seen together, studying how the master teaches works with those in that kind of a culture. To taste a touch of meat, just one bite, is a struggle that takes years of training. And a college student comes to me to ask,
What should I do? We got drunk and found a book from Barnes and Noble and did a little bit of the holding back on Tantra. Uh, they said I didn't need any training for this sexual moment, and now I'm sterile for life.
and he wonders why it happened, and I try to explain why I go to my elders and ask them for prayer to cleanse myself.
Of the hate I cannot hold on to, and they sing with me in the heat and steam as the mists of the earth rise around us, and we listen to the sacred stones gathered for this purpose. There are 4 of us. And then the news breaks, and we hear about 62 people in a lodge who paid $9,000 a pop for the privilege of death and heat stroke, and speak of the sanctity of ceremony, the privilege gifted all native people of Red Earth from the Freedom of Religion Act of 1978, that we don't have to fear going to Leavenworth doing federal time, and I speak of community and the worth that ceremony gives by sacrifice and the innate beauty of that gift to be given back to the nation that endured hardships unimaginable so that we, their children of the generations, might have life. And the older lady in blue sequins tells me,
I'd like to do a vision quest on my 65th birthday.
what the? Visiting a friend's home, well intentioned.
Her bookshelves lined with feng shui. She has her tarot and I Ching in place, her yoga mat out and blue feathers hanging from her dream catcher on the ceiling. She is seeking enlightenment, New Age tradition soup. Edgar Casey in the library next to a Bible and a book by Yogananda. Pick a path. Know your roots. Find a well-rooted teacher. Yeah, there is one mountaintop, but many paths. Pick one before you hurt yourself. Yea, the night becomes the hours in the cold late night silence.
Reaches me, reading my last set, and so I pick it up and tell of the embalming of Captain Jack of the Modoc people, his thus saturated body sent around on tour for 10 cents a peek. And I tell of Metacom King Philip, his body quartered, hung by nails from 4 different trees, his skull sent back to the town of English pilgrims for a piñata to be hit at in derision and frustration. And I speak of the skull and bones who still won't give back the bones of Geronimo. Yeah, you know the man I spoke of earlier, Goyatle? Yeah, who's the savage now? And I speak of Little Crow, the reluctant leader of the great Sioux uprising, and his scalp and skull on public display up until 1971 in St. Paul, Minnesota. And I speak of Mangas Coloradas, leader of the White Mountain Apache, whose skull and brain are held in trust by the Smithsonian Institute, and how the misnomered pairs of moccasins they have on display as social status symbols are really funerary moccasins, the souls beaded to be recognized by their peoples when they walk beyond the stars. 200 pairs. 200 pairs that the Institute received from the pioneers who stole them off someone's feet. 200 people. Native Red Earth. And the man who acted as MC wants to know.
Where can I get some real Indian souvenirs?
Yeah, the ravens cry, and the old crows mutter, and I hear the sounds of Grandfather Thunder, and I know it is time to go home. So I climb into my ride of steel to retrieve my dreams, and I pass back to home, kiss my loved one, and usher in the dreams of sacredness and stele storied stones, telling the people unseen not to think too much on the ignorance they have witnessed by my side from the ghost road. Yea, a place of dreams and sleep, sacred hearth and home to all red earth. We walk upon the ghost road.